Hey, 8th graders, welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're exploring something that is completely invisible, yet absolutely incredibly powerful. Wave simulations, modeling motion and morality. We're going to take some real hard science, specifically the physics of how energy moves through space, and we're going to discover how it actually connects directly to how we live our everyday lives.
All right, let's just dive right in. The book of James, chapter 1, verse 22 says, "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only." Now, I know what you might be thinking. You're wondering, wait, why are we kicking off a science explainer with a Bible verse? Well, it's because in both our faith and our science labs, just sitting back and passively listening, it really isn't enough. We've got to take action. So, let's hit section 1. What are wave simulations? Visualizing the invisible. Think about this for a sec. What are we supposed to do when we want to study giant, crashing ocean waves? Or even the invisible light that's literally bouncing around the room right now, but we can't actually leave the classroom? Well, we use a simulation. A simulation is basically a model that helps us visualize and measure wave behavior without needing, a full ocean or some massive multi-million-dollar light lab. It takes these abstract, sometimes dangerous, or completely impossible scientific concepts, and it just shrinks the universe down to a size that we can safely and easily manage. And here is the coolest part about what these simulations let us do. We can safely experiment with 4 absolutely crucial properties of waves: amplitude, wavelength, frequency, and speed. It's like a giant control panel. We can tweak the height of a wave, we can figure out how squished together the waves are, measure exactly how fast they pass by a single point, and clock their overall speed. These are the fundamental building blocks of wave physics, and simulations let us test them all out right from our desks. Okay, moving right along to section 2, how to model waves. Let's get hands-on. So theory is great, but remember what we said earlier? We need to be doers. When you're building physical waves right there in the classroom, there are 2 main types you're going to see. First, if you grab a rope and physically whip one end up and down, you create what's called a transverse wave. The energy is moving forward, but the rope itself, it's moving perpendicular to that energy. Now, on the flip side, if you take a spring toy, like a slinky, and you compress and release those coils, you create a longitudinal wave. In this case, the energy moves forward, and the spring pulses back and forth in that exact same direction. But we don't just stop at physical toys. With an online wave lab, we take our experiments completely digital. You can tweak the settings for speed, change the wave shapes entirely, and clearly observe the crests, which is the very top of the wave, and the troughs, the very bottom. And here's why this is a real game changer. Recording this digital data reveals the exact patterns that scientists and engineers use every day for real-world sound engineering and light-based communication. It's pretty wild. All right, pop quiz time. Let's do a rapid-fire review to make sure this is actually sticking. Which simulation showed a transverse wave and which one showed a longitudinal wave? Do you remember? Let's push those visualization skills just a bit more. How did increasing the amplitude or changing the frequency affect the wave in our lab? Try to picture that simulation in your head. When you cranked up the amplitude, boom, the wave got taller, right? The crests went higher and the troughs went deeper. And when you changed the frequency, like making it higher, those waves squished much closer together, which fundamentally changed a wavelength. You are literally learning how to control the invisible.
Which brings us to Section 3, the morality of waves, unseen but powerful. Now that we've got a solid grip on the physical science, we're going to pivot into something a little deeper. Honestly, one of the most amazing things about science is how often these physical laws provide the perfect metaphors for our spiritual lives. So think about this crucial rule of physics. Waves transfer energy without moving the medium. If a massive wave rolls through the ocean, the actual drops of water mostly stay in the exact same spot. The medium, whether that's the water or our rope, stays put, but it transfers incredible power from one place to another.
This perfectly illustrates a really beautiful moral parallel. On the physics side, we know a wave moves energy and leaves the medium behind. On the spiritual side, we can actually look at this as representing how we spread God's love. Just like that wave, an unseen influence can move right through us. We act as the medium. We transfer that positive energy, that truth, and that love, impacting others powerfully, all without drawing the spotlight to ourselves.
And that leads right into Section 4, Education with Morality, the HeroesMart philosophy.
This connection between science and spirit shows us that true learning requires a whole lot more than just, memorizing facts for a test. Think about education without morality for a second. What is the point of being incredibly smart or highly educated if you just use that intelligence to make terrible choices that actually hurt people? That is literally intelligence without a compass. In stark contrast, education with morality combines hard knowledge like our wave physics with biblical wisdom. It gives you a moral compass, ensuring the power of your education is actually used to build people up and spread positive energy. And there is a profound, life-changing benefit to taking this approach. Romans chapter 8, verses 6 and 7 basically gives us a promise. It promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. Engaging your brain not just with physical facts, but actively intertwining them with spiritual truths, it grounds you. It brings a lasting peace of mind that purely secular knowledge simply cannot guarantee. So this leaves us with one final, kind of provocative question to chew on. What kind of wave will your actions create today? You now know exactly how waves work. You know they transfer unseen energy across vast distances. And you know that you can be the medium for something absolutely incredible. So 8th graders, as you step out of this virtual lab today, be doers. Send some positive, unseen energy out into the world. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.